Hello, everybody. Welcome to Feedback for the week of April 10th, 2012. Today, we're going to talk about Star Wars, the good, the bad, and the George Lucas touching my childhood in its no-no place. All right, 10 words or less. My first panelist, Nicole, 10 words or less. Which Star Wars race do you relate to the most?
Togruta. So Ashara, Zavros, and I can have babies.
Four of those weren't real words. I don't know what any of that means.
It's my space girlfriend.
Is she a real person, or is that who you made her up?
Oh, no, she's in SWTOR.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How do you keep track of all of these people in SWTOR?
Those are the only relationships I have are with BioWare characters. So Ashara and I are like 3 months strong. So
That would explain also.
Congratulations, you
Thank you.
guys.
If it's your
Thought it was gonna
only relationship you've ever had, that would explain why you were so emotionally devastated with the ending of Mass Effect 3.
thank you for understanding.
Now I have a
finally.
different level of clarity I did not have last week. Never mind. Steve, what about you? 10 words or less. Which race?
Wookiees.
Good talk. Matt Kyle. 10 words or less. Remember, you have 10, not just one.
Right.
So feel free to use them.
Deveronians, because they talk funny and they're pleasantly devious.
I like that. I like that.
You got an adjective in there too.
Yeah. Can we go back to Steve's answer, because he had a different one earlier. He actually was explaining why he likes Wookiees.
Because I like very, very hairy men.
There you
So
go.
there's that.
There it is right there. Mine's really simple. Humans, because I am one. That's my answer.
Cheater.
I'm not creative at all. All right, Star Wars is a brand. I think this is going to be one of our best episodes because everybody has an opinion of Star Wars. Nicole and Matt have a lot of opinions, aggressively presented multiple times in the office place. Steve's pretty ambivalent, so he gets to be in the middle of this,
Yes.
and I, as an observer, just get to sit back and watch all of it occur.
But let
And
me
we've already
noted
established
that.
that Steve doesn't believe in lasers.
Yes,
So-
there's a lot of things that...
For once, Nicole and I are not going to be at each other's throats.
Oh,
It'll be a nice change.
I don't know why you would make that assumption at all.
I'm sorry.
But I'm the only one committed enough to wear a Star Wars T-shirt. So I just want, and then a Star Wars jacket.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
But I'm the only one that knows what comic book that image is from.
enlighten
pushes
us.
up glasses and delivers this.
Well, I don't actually remember which. It was some kind of giant-sized special from the Marvel comic series where Han Solo had to rescue that girl from it was like a planet of people who were all shaved bald, and they were putting people in suspended animation, and it was a whole thing where you could either keep reading the main series to find out what happened to Luke Skywalker when his X-wing fighter started to break down in the middle of a fight, or you could switch over to that giant-sized special and
With the
find out what
giant
happened to
women?
Han Solo. Oh, it was big. It was double size. It was thick.
All right.
Neil,
Yeah.
get in there.
It was one of 2 Marvel Star Wars comics I owned when I was a kid. I got them both at the same time, and I never found out what happened to Luke.
I had a Star Wars Pez.
That's the
That's not
same,
bad.
Steve. That's the
The
same.
candy came out of the back of Boba Fett's neck. It was pretty amazing.
All right, Star Wars as a brand. Obviously, we all have some sort of childhood memories, some better and less weird than others.
And the back of his neck too.
the
That's
back
how
of his
Pez
neck.
Yeah,
works.
that
Poor
was like
design.
a bootleg Pez dispenser.
Yeah, right? That
It was
wasn't
actually a
Pez, man.
Pez dispenser.
Yeah. It's
The
like,
Zep.
why are jelly beans? No, it's your parent. It's like vegetables came out the back. Your dad
exactly.
crafted it in the
Broccoli came
garage
out.
or some
Celery.
sick plot. All right, so Star Wars is a brand. No matter what, I think any generation, Nicole's generation, Steve's generation, any or us in between the two, everybody has an opinion of
In
some
between,
sort.
so you-
Well, yeah, we are.
Not
Well, I
20s,
mean, in this case.
60s, like we're 30s, right?
Yeah.
So we're splitting the difference here.
I didn't know we were booting Steve up to the older
Well-
old people
Hey, man.
range.
I'm first generation Star Trek or Star Wars.
Wow.
First generation settlers of
Sorry.
America.
I'm totally sorry about that. I am first generation Star Wars. All right?
All right, Steve.
70s Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right?
You saw it in
Yeah.
the theater?
Old school.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Took a date in college?
Yes. I took my
1977.
children to it in 1978.
My first day of my wife in 77 was that right there. Okay, regardless of your age, some of us, again, older than others, everybody has an opinion, right? And with that opinion comes high expectations. Anytime anything Star Wars comes out, there's such a high level of expectation. I personally believe that a lot of times things that people think are really good aren't as good as they really are because of the level of expectation. And a lot of times I also think that things that are actually better than what people perceive them to be are that way because of the expectations. But we're here to talk specifically about games. Why do you guys think that is? Why are games kind of judged maybe not on how good they are as a game at that moment, but because they're based around Star Wars stuff.
Because the brand, it means something to everybody. I mean, no matter the age group, Steve's old. I just wanted to
We wanted to be
very
a part
clear
of
that
that.
I'm old.
a theme that I think that we should hammer that home. I mean, no matter the generation. I mean, you and your kid both like Star Wars, and I think that it resonates with everyone. It's just such easy marketing. It's probably the most established IP ever, right next to the Bible.
Right. Most times people don't combine those two in a sentence. So
Usually,
I like that you
IP.
did that.
Usually people don't refer to the Bible
As
as
an
IP.
IP.
It was Jesus' intellectual property
It's
to an
the
extent.
anti-hero story.
I mean, one serious
No, you're right.
copyright hearing when he comes back.
Right. By the way, there was a great tweet on Easter Sunday. I follow Jesus. It's got to be the real Jesus, right? Best tweet ever on Easter Sunday. Jesus tweeted out, think I'm going to make a couple of appearances today and really freak some people out. I just thought that was the most genius tweet. But I think we can all agree that the different generations do have very different opinions
definitely.
of the same subject matter. Do we have more of a reverence for it because it was part of our childhood more than most?
I think we have a different view on it because the one thing I've noticed with a lot of my friends who have children, they draw no distinction between the two trilogies. It's all just Star Wars, and a lot of them a lot of them define it by Clone Wars. They like the prequel stuff better. I gave a bunch of figures to a friend's kid who was it was all mostly clone troopers. And he was excited that it was clone troopers and not the boring ones that Luke fights.
Not that
And
guy
I
with
was
the
like,
black helmet and the stupid cape.
And then you look at him
Yes,
like,
it has
yeah,
more.
the episode 3 clone troopers are cooler looking than the stormtroopers because they got colors and they got like special ops shit on them. I mean, it's a different world to them, and I just don't think there's that much distinction. And to us, I think a lot of people our age go into some of in the movies and maybe some of the games and some of the other material, hoping to react to them the same way they reacted to them when they were 5, and that's not true of anything, not let alone just Star Wars. Like you're never going to have that mindset and that wonder of. I'd never seen anything like Empire Strikes Back before when I saw it as a kid. I couldn't believe what was on the screen in front of me. It was another dimension through there. And you're never going to see that when you're 35. It's just not going to happen. So I think a lot of the disappointment comes from not recapturing that childhood experience because you're not a child anymore. But I think it's possible to, kind of go past, because I still love Star Wars to death. But it's not on par with what I thought about it when I was 7.
Well, you also had the disappointment of the second trilogy.
I also had the disappointment of Return of the Jedi.
See, I love Return of the Jedi.
When I was, how old was I when that came out?
I was
87.
Yeah, that was
83.
83.
And
That was after
I was
Nom?
7.
I was still negative, guys.
Steve was already,
And I
at that point, he was
spent,
wearing a
I
nom
spent
jacket
a
on
fair
the corner.
amount of
painting.
the drive home complaining in the backseat of my dad's car about how the princess. I was 7. I wasn't cynical yet, but this might have made me cynical.
Now we know the
was the
moment.
defining
The Ewoks
moment.
and all the puppets at the beginning, and the burping frog, and the treehouse scene, and Leia's his sister, and all. I just didn't. I was like, mm-mm. And after
You were not
that,
buying it.
That was
at
pretty
that
much the
age.
end of Star Wars for me. And then the next year,
But it
Transformers came
wasn't.
out, and it was all over. I didn't watch Star Wars again until probably college.
Wow.
Wow.
See, when
You
I
know,
was 7,
the
I think I was
greatest
celebrating
moment-
the
sorry.
advent of Lunchables.
Yeah.
I think when I was
See,
7, I was like, there's a whole meal in
Crackers
this little
and
tiny thing that I can
cheese?
take
I
with me anywhere I want.
had to grow up pretty fast, man, because of that. But I'll
mean
tell you
streets
this,
of
as far as
NorCal.
I'm concerned, Return of the Jedi is the first prequel. None of the prequels should surprise anyone who sees Return of the Jedi with a clear head.
You think Return of the Jedi is just as bad as Phantom
No,
Menace?
I think the prequels of Return of the Jedi turn up to 11.
See, I don't know. The prequels don't even feel like Star Wars movies to me. I mean, they just feel like some other thing.
Well, I
You
would
know what I'm
argue
talking
that
about?
pieces of Return of the Jedi qualify for that because
Yeah,
Han
maybe like the
Solo is
dance
not
scene
Han
and-
Solo
yeah.
in that movie.
You're
They
right.
had nothing for him to do,
No,
and
that's totally
Harrison
right.
Ford wanted to be anywhere else but there, and he just kind of was like, "Could you tell Luke? Is that who you could tell?" It's like, really, dude? Like you're doing that scene now from the guy who would do the like, "I'm a nice man," and then just go for it. Like,
But then you're just seeing the foreshadowing of what's to come in the Star Wars universe when you're seeing that. I mean, it's not like it has happened. You know what I'm saying? Like
What?
look, I'm saying that Return of the Jedi
breaking
has
it
one of the
down.
greatest scenes in Star Wars history, and that is when Luke Skywalker, for the very first time, we see him as a full-fledged Jedi Knight. When he was in front of Jabba the Hutt on that diving board thing about to fall in the Sarlacc, and Jabba the Hutt's like, "I'm gonna throw you in the Sarlacc," and he's like, "I'll give you one chance to surrender," and they all laugh at him, and you're like, "Oh,
All right.
it's about to go off," and Luke is about to show what all this training is done. And that scene is my favorite scene in all of the first 3
Well,
movies.
I'll tell you this much: it is a very cool action scene, and the green lightsaber is one of the great additions to the original trilogy lore late in the game. But if you can sit down and explain to me exactly how Luke's plan was supposed to work from the outset, other than all these things that went wrong going wrong intentionally, I'll give you $5 because it doesn't work.
matter.
There's no
Luke is badass.
The lazy writing and the lack of thought in terms of everything serving the plot to the point of the plot driving everything began in Return of the Jedi.
But then that comes back to our original point, which is that I could buy
Star
that totally
Wars.
when I was a kid. When I saw it when I was a kid, I was like, I didn't think of
Absolutely.
any of that
Is
I
why-
because I
know
wasn't
now.
cynical.
which is why children love the prequels and we don't.
See, I
That's
was
true.
10 when I saw the prequels, and I didn't know
What
that
the
I hated
hell?
them. Sorry. I didn't
Nicole
know
was
that I
born
hated
See,
like
them.
Nicole's
5 years ago.
explanation
I
would be
just-
because Lucas retroactively answers that for Nicole's generation by going, at that moment, Luke's midichlorian count was so incredibly high
Oh.
that he controlled every part of the
They were off the
universe.
scale.
So again, different experiences, different levels of magic.
That is
I think.
amazing to me because when I saw episode 1, I was 23, and we waited in line for 13 hours, and I finished Pokemon while I was in line for that, and then we got our tickets, we got in a van, and went down to LA and snuck into E3.
Wow.
My first
That's a
E3.
good
That's
deal for you,
funny.
man. Well
Except
done,
for that
man.
movie was the greatest.
We hadn't seen it
filmmaking
yet. We hadn't seen. We waited 13
disappointment
hours
in the world.
We waited 13 hours for tickets,
The
and then we had to
titles
wait
come up.
8 hours 2 weeks later again for seats.
The titles come up, and like I saw it opening weekend.
Are
and
you an
I'm
angel?
Like having like
That's the best.
like goosebumps because the
Absolutely.
Star Wars title comes up, and the music comes up, and then the crawl goes, and you read it like, what the hell is this? And the movie starts, and you're like, what the is this?
That is actually a good one because when I had a similar thing when we saw it with the Soul Reaver team. Actually, it was in front of us in line. But we went in, and it's the greatest thing I've ever seen happen in a theater. Because when the 20th Century Fox logo came out, everybody freaked out. The Lucasfilm logo came out, everybody freaked out. A long time ago, in the Galaxy Far Far Away came out, total silence. You could hear a pin drop. It was instant.
Why?
No one, because everyone
'Cause it
just
was gonna
knew
happen.
it was time to be quiet. And
Oh,
then
okay.
Star
I thought they were
Wars
disappointed.
and then Star
It's
Wars came
coming.
up and everybody went crazy again. And it was just this whole audience just ready for this, so ready for this, and they started to scroll and you're like, I'm seeing a new Star Wars movie. But that brings me to the question I want to ask all of you. Episode 1, when did you know something was horribly wrong? Was it the crawl?
Seriously?
Was
the
it
crawl,
yippee?
I started
Was it-
having serious misgivings during the crawl and thinking, I don't know what this is. And then during like the second scene, I was like, I don't think this movie's very good.
Right. I don't even know if the content is what swayed it for me. I think that up until that point, I had avoided the enhanced VHS tape version or everything that had rolled out to that point. I think when I saw the clarity of the picture, I think at that moment, it wasn't the kind of grainy Star Wars look that I had experienced in my childhood. Like the episode 1 just looked better. It looked more glossy. It just looked like the fancy rich people's version of the Star Wars universe. And I was living in a trailer, and I did not vibe with that at all. So I think
You wanted some soul. You wanted some grit.
I don't know. Like I think
get
that
it.
was my one moment. It was
Because
just
the
like
prequels don't have a Han Solo. There's no grounding factor. There's no everyman.
I don't know.
Nicole.
I was Queen Amidala, and until I was
Nicole's
Padme,
like,
and
I met my hero
loved
that
them
day.
so much, and I bought the Lego set because Padme has long brown hair, so every Lego I played with could be me now.
I'm not going to
I liked
mock
them
you for
a
the
long
Lego
time.
set. Matt and I unabashedly own every single Lego
The
Star
pod
Wars set
racer
of all
sets are
time.
cool. You could build your own pod racer.
Oh yeah,
She's
you're
basically
Christian McQuarrie.
Exhibit A in Steve and my argument here.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's a
Sorry.
different piece.
But if
look-
you guys don't like Star Wars movies or those ones, how come you love the game so much?
Because the games are because the story doesn't really matter, and really when it
It's the
comes
story.
down
being
to
a
it,
Jedi is
comes
awesome.
down
That's
to it,
why.
yeah, all I want is a lightsaber.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
Screw
Yeah.
it. I got in arguments with people online when KOTOR 2 came out, and it took like 10 hours for you to get your saber. I'm like, I get it, I know. I just don't stick me with a stupid sword for 10 hours. Give me a saber. I know I want a lightsaber, and I was like, oh, give me a lightsaber. Oh, yeah. And
Right.
it's just
You
like,
have to earn it,
you
man.
gotta earn
You
it,
do,
man.
you do.
It's like becoming a Jedi in the original Star Wars galaxies. Where nobody knew how to do it.
And there was
Yeah.
like 4 of them.
Yeah, and there were
it
4
was
of
all
them in the whole-
permadeath. And if you died, you became a ghost.
Yeah.
And Star Wars Galaxies has some badass ideas, but what a terrible game.
There's
They learn from it.
that's a larger discussion about the fact that it seems like anybody can do anything they want with the IP these days. But
know.
but let's talk specifically about the game. I know you do have some news that we want to bring up about Battlefront. Before you do that, I do want to ask you guys quickly, what is your favorite Star Wars game? And just like quickly, just a quick blurb about why you liked it so much? We'll start with you, Matt.
In contrast to what I just said about lightsabers, TIE Fighter.
One
TIE
of the
Fighter
best.
is my favorite because I love the space sims, and it just the fleshing out of that aspect of the universe is so cool to me. Also, I think one of the I hate the expanded universe novels, but the one series of expanded universe novels I actually really enjoyed was Michael Stackpole's X-Wing series, because the fighter jock aspect of that universe just works.
Right now, there's been so many games. So clarify: was that the GameCube launch title, or was
No,
this
no, no.
before?
That was Rogue Leader.
Rogue-
TIE
yeah,
Fighter.
Rogue Leader.
It was like X-Wing and TIE Fighter, and X-Wing versus TIE
Yeah,
Fighter
yeah,
were
yeah.
PC games in the mid '90s, and it was a sim. It was like as much of a sim as you can get with Star Wars. But it was like you were a TIE Fighter pilot, and you started in a normal TIE Fighter with like no shields, and you could take 3 hits, and if you died, and your save got erased, and it was like. It
Just
was
like
hard
in real life, just like
you were in
attacking
like
the Death Star.
you were a soldier in the Imperial Navy, and eventually you kind of became the Emperor's hand or something,
Yeah.
and like kind of got like the cool ships that didn't exist in the movies, but we were flying them because they're really super secret.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it was it's an awesome game, and why haven't you brought it back and put it on Xbox Live Arcade and let people play it online against each other, because it would sell millions. And please pay attention.
It's on Lucas's to-do make money list. It's just
Exactly.
on the bottom at this moment. Steve, what about you?
Knights of the Old Republic. Classic game and
Yeah,
classic
also a
role-playing
good
game,
one.
and it was able to be so great, I think, because it was set so many years previous to the movie, so it didn't have as much canon stuff to worry about. It was an
Thousands of
ancillary
years
material
before.
almost. What's that?
It's like thousands of years
Yeah,
before.
like 4,000 years before. And I also chose another one too. I've been playing a lot of Lego Star Wars Clone Wars with my son Dexter, and it is a perfect game. Like that game is good.
It really is, and
Yeah.
people, you turn up by the Clone Wars aspect because it's prequel, or you turn up by the fact, I played these. No, definitely, I would say the best Lego. I would say the best Lego game.
Yeah, they
period.
totally dialed in all the Lego stuff that you like.
Yeah.
So if you like
Yeah.
Lego games, man, this game
And that's
is-
also a great
and you can play it
example
with a
of-
5-year-old, and like everybody's equal, and it's really
Well, that's
crazy
also a
fun.
great example of, I'd say KOTOR is aimed at a much older audience than the movies are. It's definitely got
Is it
themes
rated
and writing.
T?
Yeah.
Because the movies are PG, so
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, Connect Star Wars is rated T. Let's not.
Was it really?
go by that? Yeah.
Wow.
We're going to get into that one in a second.
But then you got Lego Star Wars, which is for everybody, obviously. But that's a good example of Star Wars is for everybody. If when it's done well, Star Wars is all ages. Anyone can enjoy it, and the Lego games are probably the best example of that in recent years.
For sure. Nicole, what about you?
I'm not going to say KOTOR or SWTOR, but those are. Star Wars The Force Unleashed, I actually really, really liked. No, I did not two. Not two.
Because it was so easy to beat because it was so
was
buggy.
so-
2 is better than 1.
Oh, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
Oh, no, it's not.
From a gameplay
Um,
perspective,
I
it's
like-
so much better.
I like the idea of a story taking place within the universe of the original trilogy. I really like Sam Witwer, is what I'm going.
Yeah, I
with
was going to
this.
say Starkiller.
It was a
so
good
bad.
story.
I really like Starkiller.
It was
Yeah.
a good story. Thing. Hayden Blackman tells a good Star Wars yarn.
He
No
really
doubt
does.
about that.
And the stuff he's writing for DC Comics now, side note, is pretty good as well. I forget. It escapes me right
Is
now.
Sam Witwer involved?
Sam
could
Witwer,
be.
yes, he is. He's a collectible.
Okay.
He's
Character.
writing. Is he writing Batwoman now?
He's writing with with J.H.
Yeah.
Williams. I think he's splitting the duties, and yeah, it's really
Hmm.
pick it up if you
Pick it up.
like
Hey-
Star Wars: Force Unleashed. You'll really like
Hayden
his
Blackman
Batwoman.
tells some damn good stories. He wrote some really good stuff in the Star Wars Republic comic series
yeah,
too.
yeah.
I think he was responsible for the issue where the Separatists use nerve gas to kill an entire moon full of Gungans, and there's this giant splash page of like all this pouring rain and mud, and there's just decaying poison Gungans like rotting in the mud. It's,
And
it's
for every
amazing.
person that grew up with the
Jar
original
Jar.
trilogy, that was
Mm-hmm.
written directly for them.
Here's what we think of Jar
Jar
Jar.
Jar.
Here's what we think.
Yeah, I'm
What do you
gonna
think of Jar
seem
Jar?
like
You fan?
Yeah, did you like Jar Jar?
At the time, I really had no opinion of him, and over the years, I've just felt bad for him because it's not his fault. He's the way he is.
Yeah,
I feel
read
like
this.
we should be more accepting.
I read this fascinating article with the actor that actually played Jar
Poor
Jar,
guy.
and like he feels like his career has been directly influenced on a negative level because of Jar Jar. And then the interviewer at some point goes, "But nobody knows you're Jar Jar because Jar Jar was like a fake character." And the guy's like, "Yeah, but I just feel like there's this thing." It was just really interesting.
Like it's affected his life.
It was a
like,
thing
completely.
that, you know, I don't
He'll
know if
never
the
be
interviewer
same.
or
Well, it was a
interview
big
is-
deal at the time. Like everyone
Everyone
knew him.
hated
He
him.
was interviewed a lot, and
Yeah.
George Lucas gave a lot of credit to him for the character. And there's a lot of behind the
He did a
scenes
great
footage
job.
of him in that
his fault.
horrible outfit. and it was believed that this was going to be like a big revolution. And, they pushed that it was going to be a big revolution in acting, and Lucas was even thinking about pushing to try and get him a supporting actor nomination.
Let me
Yeah,
ask
and
you
you
a
can see
question
it
then.
in the movie. Like some of his scenes
Yeah,
are
because
like
he had a major
overly
scene with
dramatic,
every
and you're
single
like,
main character in the movie. They were
Yeah.
trying to make him.
Would Jar Jar
part
have
of
been
that.
better if Andy Serkis would have done him?
Yeah,
He would have been better if he wasn't like a weird racial stereotype, probably.
of like
It
a
works so
racial
well in
stereotype of a
Transformers,
race
though.
that doesn't.
But then that was also
actually
kind of
exist.
yeah, but it was also kind of par for the course in episode 1 because like you had the weird Asian bad guy
Federation.
aliens and you had like the flying Jew junk salesman.
They actually called them in the first draft the Flying Jew. Flying
Jew.
I mean, when he comes out, how is that not like a total Shylock Merchant of Venice
No,
thing
it
going
really
on right
is,
there?
and,
I mean,
and that really struck me in the movies. The other racial stereotypes I didn't notice quite as much, but that one I was like,
Oh, that's
are
pretty
they
glaringly
really just
obvious.
making the
Yeah.
merchant
Yeah.
into like
Yeah,
that's pretty
a
odd.
stingy Jew? Is that really what they're doing? Like seriously?
I'm
Oh,
not
man.
getting involved in this at all.
Yeah, this is weird.
I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Jewish people, or it's just that I noted the stereotype in the
it's
movie.
an
You
absolute
can't miss
right.
it.
It's
Dig
like
that
it's not
hole.
like that movie is full of them. It's very strange that was the direction they decided to
I
take
know.
the franchise.
I know because there's nothing
because it
like
wasn't
that
really
in the first
there
three
in
movies.
the first. Yeah.
That argument could be made about so many decisions from that point on. I'm going to seem like a hypocrite because I tore up my paper for Nicole's answer, and I have
do
an
you need
answer.
this?
That game is my game is way worse than your game. No, it's fine. I like being directionless in this show.
Got it.
But my answer is Star Wars Episode 1, Jedi Power Battles. Here's why. The game, not so good. But that game came out on the Dreamcast the same year that I was legal to drink. And I remember going to the store, buying that game, and then buying a lot of beer and playing all through the night and skipping work the next day. And that was my first, like, really adult, I'm an alcoholic and I'm going to eschew all responsibilities to only play video games moment. So I feel like that set the standard for me moving forward in my career.
I really enjoyed Jedi Power Battles.
It's cool to be with a bunch of different Jedi, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
like you're like, maybe I didn't really care that much about Mace Windu, but he's got a freaking cool lightsaber in this
And
game.
it's
So
purple.
yeah,
Could
so
you beat
it
Bib
wasn't
Fortuna
purple.
though?
Oh,
what's that?
forget
But
it.
he wasn't
Bib
purple yet.
Fortuna?
I think you
Forget
could. I think that was an unlockable character, if I'm not
Bib
mistaken.
Fortuna?
Yeah, you could be a lot of different.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you
people in
beat
that,
the
I
game,
think.
you could go back and I remember you can go back and play the game as like 4 more
You play as
people.
Darth Maul.
Yeah,
and-
it was a pretty cool game
not
because
bad.
I got to drink beer legally while I played it. Anyway, it's another story for another time. Nicole, I think the news that really got us sparked in the
Yeah.
whole Star Wars conversation. I know a lot of Star Wars fans very happy to hear this if it is indeed true.
So a few weeks ago, some images leaked that were a gamer says he found on a copy of Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, which is developed by Sixlant Games, which was rumored to be developing Battlefront 3 years ago. So I guess it's plausible that they would put screenshots accidentally on a copy of Capcom's Resident Evil game. Probably not, but the screenshots are up there and they look legit. Anyone with Photoshop could probably make it legit. But so that started the Battlefront 3 rumors. And then around that time, a video surfaced of a March 2008 build for Battlefront 3, which was being developed by Radical Design, and that has been canceled. But so basically, people are finding clues around the internet indicating that they think the next Battlefront 3 game will be announced. And then the most recent rumor was that Spark Unlimited would be the developer behind it, and they were coy about it, and they said that they are working on a sequel for a well-known sci-fi franchise. Today, it was announced that Lost Planet 3 is that franchise. So,
Because Star Wars is fantasy.
yeah. Well, it's. Can you not be sci-fi and fantasy?
You can be sci
According
fantasy.
to Netflix, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, well, according to
So-
Netflix, I also need to watch all of Adam Sandler's movies, and Netflix isn't always right. But let's just assume that this rumor is true.
I think there's potential that the game is being developed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of these
crazy not
developers.
to.
I know, but they'd be crazy. It'd be
I
crazy
mean,
for
Lucas
Final
would be
Fantasy
crazy
VII
not to do a
HD
lot
not
of
to be
things they don't
released.
do. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I feel like Lucas, if one thing that they are definitely really good at with their merchandising, with their brand, is covering all their bases, whether it's
But it's
hardcore
been so
gamers or
long.
whether it's little kids. There's a Star Wars for them.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
Well,
that they would be.
I just
sort
hope
of
they
do
do
say
something
onto-
because I'll tell you this much: I monitor the general email box for XPlay. So if you send an email to XPlay, I'm the one who reads it before I let anyone else see it. And the Battlefront 3 is by far the most asked about
Whoa.
and game
By far above
Yes.
Kingdom Hearts
Yeah,
3.
above
above
than
Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
More than
Because I go
didn't
through
always used to be the case.
.com's emails and comments, and it's a different story
used,
to .com.
used to be Kingdom Hearts 3. In the last 2 years, I would say Battlefront 3 has definitely taken over as the most asked about game.
Now, why do you think that is?
Because Battlefront 1 and 2 were pretty
Was
awesome,
awesome.
and
Pretty
people
awesome.
would like
That's a
to play
good-
them with
that's a good
graphics
reason.
that are like visually pleasing today.
I
and
was watching
with the
videos of 2
advances
and it
in
looks
first-person.
good.
I mean, can you imagine a Battlefront 3 with like an online like unlockable leveling system like Call of Duty?
Those
Like
were really
that would
interesting
be
games,
insane.
those
Awesome.
Battlefront
Wasn't
Yeah.
there a
Like, they
Call
were
of
really
Duty
cool.
Modern Warfare 2 mod that kind of made it look like it was on Hoth?
yeah, there
Like
was
it
one
looked
like that.
great.
Well, then why has it? I mean, I
I will
agree with you.
prestige to unlock an ad. I'm just telling you. Like, I'm
Why
saying.
why hasn't it been made then? Up to this point,
I feel like there's probably a lot of weird stuff going on over at LucasArts the last several years. I think there's been a lot of restructuring, a lot of changes, and power has changed hands several times. A lot of people have left. A lot of people have been rehired. A lot of people, there was the whole exodus after Force Unleashed 2. Who knows what's going on over there?
Well, I mean,
It's anarchy over there.
It's crazy.
Craziness.
They're burning their cubicles.
settle down, people.
he's not really involved anymore.
not so much.
George?
Yeah.
Yeah, George comes by once in a
Georgie?
while.
TMZ ran into him, and I did.
Oh,
I know.
no,
I'm
you
sorry.
didn't.
They ran into him at a restaurant last month, and they asked him, are there going to be any more Star Wars game, any more Star Wars franchises? And he said, never. I'm retired. So I mean, I think he's done.
All right.
He finally bought all of San Francisco. He owns every square foot of San Francisco now.
Yeah, he's done with what? I mean, like,
He's done making movies.
He did say, but I'll tell you what. Like I know he wanted to move away. I read the interview. He's like, Star Wars is done. And I didn't read it on TMZ. I read it at a much more credible source on the
Sorry,
internet.
I didn't.
No, not true. But because he wanted to focus on smaller, more character-driven stories like Red Tails, and then Red Tails came out, and everybody's like, yeah, you just don't know what you're doing, George. And so I feel like a guy like him is going to eventually go back to the franchise that people, no matter what he does to it, will
Right.
still at least look at.
Right.
Well,
And
that's
what
why
he's
he
doing.
made
know-
American Graffiti, which is another cultural defining movie, and you could not say that the performances were bad or
That was
or
George
that.
Lucas 30-something years
Well,
ago.
that's
Yeah.
what-
He's
but it's
definitely
weird. He
changed.
can do it though.
Yeah.
You know, like he can.
Yeah, but
he
can
does
do it-
understand how
he
to tell
can do
a
it with a
story.
lot of input, and he doesn't have because a lot of people attribute the greatness of the original Star Wars and those two, Marsha Lucas, who was his wife at the time, and the editor on the original Star Wars and Empire, and she also worked on Jaws. He worked with Spielberg and Coppola. They were all kind of part of that group. And after they got divorced in '83, I think. She was not really part of the circle anymore. And right after that, you'll notice that the quality of a lot of their movies started to... And
What are you implying?
there are a lot of people who believe that Marsha Lucas was really the driving force behind why those movies were good, because she was the one that if you had some problem, if something was wrong in Star Wars, according to like Lawrence Kasdan and some people, like you told Marsha, and then she would argue with George until he gave up.
Because she's the
Wow,
only person in
interesting.
his life that would tell him no.
Right.
I assume at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and so
now he
now
doesn't
you've
have
got,
anybody,
and
yeah.
you had Garrett, Dykstra and all those guys who were and Ben Burt and all these guys who were really innovate. The ILM was a big warehouse where they created like a giant pool out of like rubber at one point, and they just soak in it all day. It was like a weird commune, but they got all this amazing shit done while they were doing that, and it was just this, and it was just all these free spirited people who just like were trying to do things that had never been done before. And they're all kind of
Hippies.
collaborating and
Yeah,
putting
pool
things
made of rubber
together.
is a euphemism
The
for
original Star
Quaalude.
Wars trilogy, up to not so much Return of the Jedi because more control is being exerted over the multi-billion-dollar franchise
Sure.
at that point. But like it was a collaboration. It was people like just saying, "Hey, what if we did this?" And like, "Okay, great, let's
Yeah,
do
why
it."
not?
And then
was no
the
expectation.
prequels were, he was an established brand. ILM was the place to work, and everyone who was working there grew up watching these movies. And I wouldn't sit there. I wouldn't if I was a digital artist on episode 1 or like working with. I wouldn't sit there and disagree with George Lucas. You
Dear
crazy?
George, I need to have a conversation with you about all of your bad decisions.
Yeah,
He
That
had
That
no
was
one
never
there.
sent.
He had no one there to contradict him, and he flat out admits he hates writing. And
Right.
and for I would say Clone Wars. I don't know if you've seen any of the Clone Wars CG series because
I
your
have.
kid likes it.
Yeah, he loves it.
I think it's great.
Oh,
Yeah,
Clone
I
Wars
think
is
it's
fantastic.
fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah.
And it's because and George Lucas is the executive producer, and they talk about how he contributes ideas, and like the best character in it, Cad Bane, directly created by Lucas.
Is that true? I
Yeah.
love Cad Bane.
He's
the greatest.
like I want a
Cad Bane's
character.
the
He's like
best.
I want a bounty hunter that really gets stuff done, and like is like Lee Van Cleef and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, he's got that spaghetti western vibe. I
Because
love
Lucas
Cad
is a
Bane.
great idea man, and like he gives it to the guys who produce that show, and they just make it work. And that's exactly how the prequel should have been. But he just didn't want to do that way, I guess.
I do desperately want to have get to a point in my life where nobody can tell me no, though. So I do not
it's
begrudge
kinda
him
hard
at
to
all for
argue.
being in that position.
In a sense, it's hard to argue with the guy's success. I mean, it's not like the prequels came out and nobody went to see
Right,
them. I mean, they made a
right.
gazillion, so like, why
Now they're
wouldn't
out
you go?
again
Yeah,
in
whatever
3D.
he says is right.
Made another
Yeah.
gazillion
Why not?
dollars.
But
It'll
I
be
still
fine.
believe that I'm sure he's done with it right now, and he just doesn't want to hear about it. But I have a feeling because of he is who he is deep down, I feel like at some point he's gonna come back around to it and be kind of like, you know what? Before I go out, I want to go out and like show them all
Do
that I
one,
can do.
yeah.
This,
Do
you know?
you think that they would make more movies? Because I feel like
I think they. I mean, 7 through 9 would be an interesting proposition, which I feel like he would only do after CG got good enough that he wouldn't have to use any real actors. But
We're
I
almost
think
there.
I would say, he doesn't have to even. He could do the same kind of job he does in terms of Clone Wars, but make a Knights of the Old Republic trilogy. Like
Sure.
take the
well,
the
Bioware
stuff
is
set
going to
up.
be pretty busy, and
Yeah.
I think they've invested enough
Look,
money in SWTOR for
Those
now.
Yeah.
those Blur trailers for SWTOR are.
We had that
the
conversation.
greatest damn thing I have
Yeah.
seen
Well-
Star Wars
Never
related, and so I mean, I would watch movies made by those guys.
I would love
in a
to
second.
see 7 through 9 done in a video game, and that's kind of why I love Force Unleashed so much, because it was like I was playing the movies, and I think that there's a lot of potential there to continue the series, with the story in video games. And
Yeah.
there's no reason why I don't think BioWare is going to have time to do it for the next 3 or 4 years. They're going to be supporting SWTOR forever, so I don't know who would take that on, but I feel like that would be the best way to
Well, they'd have
expand
to
to continue the
reform
series.
stuff.
I'd like to see a gritty, character-driven piece that's about the garbage monster that attacks them in the
Oh,
compound.
What's his
Steven
motivation?
Johnson.
Yeah,
What's he doing with Hose?
I believe you
What's
mean.
he doing
I believe you
around?
mean the
What's he doing?
Dianoga.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Oh,
mean
God,
the
there it
Dianoga.
is.
It slipped my tongue for a moment. I couldn't think that the garbage monster was called the Dianoga.
And now
So
you're
now
very
that you pointed
disappointed.
it
Now
out,
he's half the battle.
I'm very embarrassed.
I wanted to do
that
an
I didn't know
Ortolan
that.
organ hero.
But I get what you're saying because as much as I didn't like the game Force Unleashed, the story felt like
Whitwer
Star
guys.
Wars.
I agree.
Yes.
It really
And
felt like
you're
Star
playing
Wars.
the movie, and
Yeah.
I mean that's why there's this brand at all, because everybody fell in love with those
and
movies.
just wasn't it good to see Darth Vader acting like a proper again?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that was
And
nice.
speaking of that, I'd like to see George Lucas return to the franchise by directing porn parodies. That's just my thought.
All right.
You know, the
They're
ones
very
out
popular
there
nowadays.
are
Why not
okay.
have an official licensed porn parody?
It's out there now.
Is it really?
Officially
No, I
licensed?
mean your idea.
Oh no,
It's-
and it'll happen because the porn industry is that powerful. All right, Nicole, we have time for one user feedback question. Please tell me it's porn related to support my idea.
It could be, but it's not.
Okay.
Let's do one from Bobby Toes.
Oh, adorable.
Star Wars is a movie franchise that has seen many revisions and enhancements. What are your thoughts on the parallels between a director making changes to his or her movies and a development team changing their games? Will we see a director's cut in video games?
And I think the Mass Effect 3 ending sparked that conversation quite a bit.
I don't think that we would need to see new endings.
I think
to
we're
see a
looking at it. I
director's
think
cut.
Bioware is basically saying they are going to release a director's cut of the ending. I mean,
Well-
that's essentially what, to answer this guy's question, that's what's going to happen.
Extended. They're
But you
adding
know,
a
an
code
extended
on
cut.
it.
For
you know?
retro games, like games that you played 15, 20 years ago, maybe an added level in the beginning, or maybe some more context for a scene that didn't make a lot of sense.
What's Jordan Mechner doing with? By the way, we had dinner with Jordan Mechner at PAX East. Okay, so the Japanese, we had this discussion at work. The Japanese
All
don't
right,
really
let's hear
don't really stress a lot of syllables. So when he created karateka, right? That's what he said. But he's like, because I'm a dude who created it here, it's karateka. So
Karate,
now we
yeah.
know for sure through Mechner's mouth. But he said
Erotic
that's not what
karate.
it's supposed to sound like. But we're dumb Americans, and so it's karateka. But my point is, do you see him maybe doing something with karateka? I mean, that he
Well,
could.
yeah, he said
a guy like Mechner
they're
could
remaking
revisit.
Karateka.
Yeah, but
a classic mode?
a classic
or,
mode, or
I
something
think
like
that's
that.
unusual in that the guy who made the original is coming back to do
Sure.
the
With
remake.
Kickstarter, we're seeing that more and
Yeah,
more.
the guy
Yeah,
from Shadowrun
Shadowrun?
is doing the
Wasteland
Kickstarter
2.
now.
Yeah.
Wasteland 2,
Even
Wasteland,
the
I
Various
love that
coming
game.
back.
I
Yeah.
can't believe that's coming back. Can't believe Shadowrun's coming back.
Yeah.
I hope they're all good
XCOM?
and they don't just implode on themselves.
Old games never die; they just come back and Kickstarter.
That actually made. I mean, that's a great point. Is that I feel like Kickstarter is allowing these older creators to maybe go back and do exactly what that guy's asking.
And I feel like a director's cut would be such fan service that it would be nothing. It would just be nice.
It happens. I mean,
Like,
I think
reward
the
your
re-releases of the Metal Gear games, like Subsistence and Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, and those are pretty much directors. Kojima pretty much does director's cuts of those, and I don't know how common that's going to become because it's easier to make that call with movies because the director is sort of in charge of it, and Ridley Scott
The
will always
executive producer
like
cut.
you, yeah,
that makes
and like
sense for
there
games.
is no auteur theory for gaming really from the point of view of the people who foot the bills.
But at the same
So-
time, it could mean I bought the game 10 15 years later, I'm going to buy it again now that you put director's cut on it.
I think
So
it's a little bit of
But-
a dangerous line to walk, as evidenced by the Star Wars movies. I mean, because I just want to see Star Wars: A New Hope the way I saw it when I was 7 years old.
eBay is
I
my
don't
suggestion for you.
But I can't watch it digitally that way, and I don't like it. Hasn't been released in its original form, and I feel like it's one thing to go, hey, we have this enhanced version, but here's the original as well. Like, I don't mind if there's both, but when there's just one, it becomes
Yeah, that's where you
annoying.
gotta.
It's
I mean,
just
it's like
come
Ridley
on.
Scott.
Your movie was fine how it was.
You know, like Ridley Scott, that's the advantage of, no one complains about the changes and messing around made to Blade Runner because that set has all the versions. If you want to watch the original
7.
theatrical cut with the god awful VO,
Narration.
so
I was
sushi, cold fish. That's what my wife called me. And like, it's if you want to watch that because you're crazy, go ahead and do it because it's right there and
And
it's
you
been
have the
cleaned
right
up
to be
too,
crazy.
and it looks great and it's awesome. And like that is exactly what should be done. I don't know why Lucas is against that with
Do you
Star
think
Wars.
he's saving
but-
it for some sort of like special edition or because it seems like they
Yes.
just put out like
Nah, I just think he trusts technology too much.
I think he likes technology.
I
so
think
much,
he
look
likes
at- I
making
think
money
that's-
also, and the
There's that
more
too.
versions
I think he has
you
a good
release-
time. Yeah, he has a good time messing around with new technology, and he's like, why not revisit the stuff that I know is already successful for me, and
But
apply it to
revisiting,
this.
like putting out the original version wouldn't keep him from putting out a newer version too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just another version that he could put out, and the one that I prefer would be the one
Yeah,
that's
but
all practical
See
effects
how long
and no
it took
digitals.
for a Blu-ray to come out?
Yeah,
Like,
You should just start a
it
Kickstarter.
takes its time.
I should
so
start,
start a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We could get this thing
Well,
funded.
it'd just be a Kickstarter for send me a digital copy.
It's not a bad Kickstarter to start.
Yeah, like I don't care about anyone else.
Yeah, it's fine.
just
So
me.
that's all the time we have. So quickly, just go around the room. Your final thoughts on the Star Wars universe as it stands right now.
I think that there are a lot of misses in the Star Wars universe, but there's so much about it that I love that I will be a sheep and I will buy Star Wars products and games forever.
All right, Steve.
Star Wars is cool. Cad Bane, rock and roll.
All right.
I still love it. It's the universe in my head is still cool enough that I will spend time there whenever it's offered.
All right. And as we covered earlier, if you're not already watching Clone Wars, you are missing out on
Yes.
The
missing
story
out
that
on
I think if
the
you're
best
our
Star
age
Wars
that
since the original
watch,
trilogy.
absolutely. So go pick up the Clone Wars. As usual, thank you guys so much for watching feedback and for supporting George Lucas in all his endeavors so we could have this conversation.
He needs the money.
Yeah. New episodes go up every Wednesday at g4tv.com/feedback.